It was a crisp afternoon in Central Park, New York, when Marcus Winters, a successful businessman, decided to take a break after signing a significant corporate deal. The weight of the day's demands melted away as he strolled through the park, breathing in the fresh air. The sun hanging low in the sky bathed everything in a soft golden hue. He felt relaxed, almost at peace, until his chest suddenly tightened. He gripped his chest, a sharp pain spreading as his breathing became labored. Panic set in as the familiar sensation of an asthma attack began to overwhelm him. His inhaler, the one thing he needed, was nowhere to be found. His breath came in shallow, desperate gasps, his hands trembling as he stumbled toward a nearby bench, collapsing onto it. The world around him seemed to blur. He could see joggers passing by, couples walking their dogs, people sitting on blankets reading books. But no one seemed to notice his struggle. Panic rose as his vision faded, his throat constricting with every attempt to take in air. Desperation clawed at his chest. Nearby, a young girl named Ellie Thompson was chasing after a soccer ball that had rolled too far off the path. At just 10 years old, Ellie wasn't thinking about anything except getting her ball back. But as she sprinted after it, her sharp eyes caught sight of the man on the bench. Her steps slowed, noticing how he clutched his chest and appeared to be struggling. Without a second thought, Ellie stopped running. She quickly assessed the situation, her instincts guiding her more than any rational thought. She turned and dashed toward the man. There was no hesitation in her stride. Her concern for him overrode everything else. "Sir, are you okay?" Ellie asked, her voice filled with genuine concern. Her small frame barely reached his height, but there was no mistaking the determination in her eyes. Marcus opened his mouth, trying to speak, but only a faint, strained whisper escaped. He could barely breathe. His body felt weak, his fingers desperate to hold on to something solid. He clutched the bench tightly, his face pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. Without missing a beat, Ellie reached into her jacket pocket, pulled out her inhaler, and handed it to him. "Here, use mine," she said, her voice calm but urgent. Her bright blue eyes stared up at him, unwavering in their compassion. Marcus, barely able to move his fingers, took the inhaler from her trembling hand. His fingers fumbled as he brought it to his mouth, taking a deep puff. He held the breath for a moment before slowly exhaling. He took another puff, and in a matter of seconds, the world started to settle. His breathing began to return to normal, the panic slowly easing. The sharp pains in his chest subsided. He looked at Ellie in disbelief, still catching his breath. "You just saved me," he managed to whisper, his voice hoarse but sincere. Ellie smiled warmly, her face brightening at his words. "My mom always says we should help people when we can," she replied. There was an innocence in her voice, as if it was the most natural thing in the world to do. Just then, a woman's voice called out, and Ellie's mother, Sarah, appeared at the edge of the park, hurrying toward them. Sarah had just finished her shift at the local diner and had come to pick up Ellie for their walk home. She wiped her hands on her apron, scanning the area until her eyes landed on her daughter with a man sitting on the bench beside her. Ellie, feeling a sense of relief in knowing that her mom was there, turned to Sarah with a nod. "I helped him, Mom," she said simply, pointing to Marcus, who was now sitting upright, his breathing normal again. Marcus, still a little pale but much steadier, glanced up at Sarah, his hand clutching the inhaler like it was something sacred. "Your daughter helped me when no one else did. She's got a heart of gold," he said, his voice filled with genuine gratitude. Sarah smiled, a little weary from the long day, but touched by Marcus's words. "I'm just glad she was there," she said, her voice soft and appreciative. Marcus took out a sleek business card from his jacket, the gold-embossed lettering gleaming in the light. "I'm Marcus Winters," he said, handing the card to Sarah. "I'd really appreciate staying in touch. You both gave me more than you know." Sarah hesitated for a moment, glancing down at the card. She wasn't sure what to make of the situation, but knew that they had just witnessed something out of the ordinary. She took the card from Marcus's hand, nodding politely. "Thank you," she said quietly, not sure what else to say. Marcus smiled warmly at both of them before standing up and heading toward his car. He was heading to the hospital for a quick checkup, but his mind kept returning to the young girl who had saved his life. Ellie's kindness had made him reflect on his own values, and he couldn't stop thinking about how a simple act of compassion had changed everything. The next morning, Sarah sat at the kitchen table, sorting through bills with a cup of coffee in hand. Life was always a balancing act, working long hours at the diner just to make ends meet. She glanced up at Ellie, who was playing with her soccer ball in the living room, and sighed. It had been a normal morning until the phone rang. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, but the voice on the other end was unmistakable. "Hello, this is Marcus Winters," the deep voice said. "I hope I'm not calling too late." Marcus Winters, the man Ellie had helped the day before. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. "No, it's fine," Sarah replied, surprised. "How can I help you?" "I wanted to thank you and Ellie again," Marcus said. "Her kindness meant the world to me. I couldn't stop thinking about it." Sarah was silent for a moment, unsure of how to respond. This wasn't something that happened every day. People didn't just call to say thanks. "I'm glad she was able to help," Sarah said quietly. "I was hoping you both could come to my home tomorrow," Marcus continued. "I'd like to speak with you properly, if you have time." Sarah felt a rush of confusion. "Your home," she repeated, her mind racing. "I'm not sure I understand." "I just want to thank you both properly," Marcus explained. "It's important to me. We can talk more when you get here." Sarah hesitated, glancing over at Ellie, who was now staring at her curiously. A strange mixture of excitement and unease swept over Sarah. She didn't belong in Marcus's world, the world of wealth and privilege. Yet there was something about his voice that made her think this might be real. "All right, we'll come," Sarah finally said. After hanging up, she stood there for a moment, her thoughts in a whirlwind. She couldn't help but feel like this was all some mistake. They were just a regular mother and daughter. What could Marcus Winters possibly want with them? "Who was that, Mom?" Ellie asked, bouncing over to Sarah with wide eyes. "It was Marcus Winters," Sarah replied. "The man you helped yesterday." Ellie's face lit up. "Really? He called us?" Sarah nodded, still processing the conversation. "He invited us to his house tomorrow. He wants to thank us." "That's so cool!" Ellie cheered, bouncing on her feet. Sarah smiled faintly. "I don't know about cool, Ellie. We don't usually get invited to people's homes like this. I'm not sure what to think." "Maybe he's just a nice guy," Ellie said with a shrug, completely unfazed. "I think he just wants to say thanks." The next day, Sarah and Ellie waited for the car Marcus had arranged to pick them up. When it arrived, a sleek black car, the driver opened the door with a polite smile. As they drove through the city, Sarah couldn't help but feel a bit nervous. The streets of the city began to thin, replaced by sprawling lawns and grand estates. They passed iron gates, tall and imposing, before arriving at Marcus's mansion. Sarah's heart raced as they pulled up to the grand entrance. Marcus was already standing by the door, dressed in a light sweater and tailored trousers. He looked nothing like the business mogul Sarah had imagined. Instead, he seemed like someone genuinely happy to meet them. "Welcome," Marcus said with a smile, stepping forward to greet them. "It's so good to see you again." Ellie waved shyly, and Sarah managed a polite smile, still in awe of the surroundings. "Thank you for having us," Sarah said, her voice slightly shaky. Marcus ushered them inside, his warmth immediately putting them at ease. Come in," he said, leading them into his home. As Sarah stepped inside, she couldn't help but feel like they had just entered another world, one she never thought they would be a part of. But she also couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something unexpected. As Sarah and Ellie stepped into Marcus Winters' home, the vast grandeur of the mansion left Sarah momentarily speechless. The entrance hall was decorated with large paintings, and the floors gleamed with polished marble. Ellie's eyes were wide with wonder, but Sarah felt a twinge of discomfort, like they didn't belong in this world of wealth and luxury. Marcus led them into the sitting room, a space filled with soft cream-colored furniture, and a fireplace that crackled gently in the background. Sunlight streamed in through the tall windows, casting a warm glow on the room. "Please make yourselves comfortable," Marcus said, gesturing to the couch. His warm smile made it hard to imagine he was the same businessman who ruled boardrooms and signed billion-dollar deals. Sarah sat down cautiously, glancing at Ellie, who had already made herself at home on the couch. Ellie was staring around the room with the awe of a child who had just stepped into a fairy tale, oblivious to the world of disparity outside. Marcus sat across from them, looking relaxed. "I want to say thank you for what happened yesterday," he began. "Ellie's kindness was a rare thing, and it made me realize how much I've taken for granted." Sarah frowned slightly, still unsure where this conversation was going. "I'm glad she was there to help," she replied quietly, "but we really didn't expect anything from you." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I understand," he said, his voice gentle. "But what Ellie did, what you both did, was something that truly changed me. It made me rethink the way I approach people and the world around me." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I've spent so much of my life in boardrooms and behind closed doors. I've been focused on deals, profits, and success. But yesterday, I saw something that I haven't seen in years: the power of kindness." Ellie, who had been listening intently, smiled brightly. "I just helped because it was the right thing to do," she said innocently. Sarah felt a pang in her chest. She had always taught Ellie to be kind, to help others without expecting anything in return. But this was different. Marcus Winters wasn't just anyone. He was a man of power and wealth, someone who had the resources to change their lives. "I don't want to sound ungrateful," Sarah said, her voice faltering slightly, "but we don't need anything. We're just getting by, but we're fine." Marcus looked at her intently. "I know," he said softly, "but that's exactly why I want to do something for you. Something meaningful." Sarah's heart raced. She had never imagined she would be in a position like this, sitting in a mansion, having a conversation about doing something meaningful with someone who could change their lives with a single gesture. "I don't want to offend you," Marcus continued, sensing Sarah's hesitation, "but I can help you. I want to give you and Ellie something that might make your life easier. I can't turn my back on what you did for me." A cold knot formed in Sarah's stomach. She had always believed in earning things on her own, not accepting handouts from anyone, no matter how well-intentioned. But Marcus wasn't offering her charity. He was offering a chance to escape the cycle of worry and struggle that had defined her life for so long. I don't know what to say," Sarah said softly, her voice trembling. "This feels like too much." Marcus smiled gently. "It's not too much. What I'm offering is not charity. It's simply a thank you, a way to return the favor for something that touched me deeply." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table toward Sarah. "Inside this folder, you'll find a trust fund, $2 million. I've also selected a few homes in a neighborhood I think you'd like. They're fully paid for, no strings attached. I want you and Ellie to have a fresh start. No more worrying about rent, no more struggling." Sarah's breath caught in her throat. $2 million? A house? It was unimaginable. She couldn't comprehend how a man like Marcus could be offering something so generous, something that could change their lives forever. But at the same time, the weight of the offer made her feel uneasy. "Marcus, we can't accept this," Sarah whispered, shaking her head. "It's too much." Marcus looked at her with quiet sincerity. "No, Sarah. It's exactly what you deserve. You and Ellie have shown me that kindness is worth more than all the money in the world. I want you both to have the life you deserve." Sarah's hands trembled as she took the folder, the enormity of the decision sinking in. She could feel Ellie's eyes on her, full of curiosity and hope, and she realized that this was more than just an offer. It was a new beginning. Marcus stood up and walked over to the window, looking out over the estate. "I've seen the world through a different lens thanks to Ellie. She reminded me of something I'd lost. The power of selfless acts, the kind of kindness that can change everything." As he turned back toward them, Marcus smiled. "Take your time. You don't need to decide now, but when you're ready, I'll be here." Sarah couldn't sleep that night. The folder Marcus had given her sat on the kitchen table, its contents weighing heavily on her mind. The house was quiet, the only sound the soft rustling of leaves outside the window. Ellie had long since gone to bed, her excitement from the day still buzzing in her energy. But Sarah couldn't shake the overwhelming sense of unease. $2 million, a house, a fresh start. It all seemed like too much. Sarah had spent her entire life working hard for what little they had. The idea of accepting such an extravagant gift made her feel like she was abandoning everything she believed in. She wasn't one to accept charity. But the problem was, this wasn't charity. Marcus had given them something that could change their lives forever. For Ellie, it meant a future without the constant worry of bills or being forced to leave the only home they'd ever known because they couldn't afford the rent. For Sarah, it was an opportunity to chase the dream she had let slip away when life had gotten too hard. A chance to build a better life for herself and her daughter. Still, the decision wasn't easy. The next morning, Sarah made breakfast, trying to clear her mind and act as if nothing had changed. But deep down, she knew it had. The choice was staring her in the face, and she couldn't ignore it. Ellie bounded into the kitchen, her face glowing with enthusiasm. "Mom, are we going to go see those houses today?" she asked, her voice full of hope. Sarah set the plates down and smiled faintly. "Maybe, but we need to think about it, Ellie." Ellie frowned, clearly not understanding. "But it's a new house, Mom. We wouldn't have to move again. No more worrying about rent. I can have my own room." "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said, her voice gentle but filled with hesitation. "But it's a big decision. It's not just about the house. It's about everything." Ellie tilted her head, her brow furrowed in confusion. "What do you mean?" "I mean that this isn't just a gift. It's an offer that will change everything," Sarah said softly. "We can't just take something like this without really thinking about it." Ellie's face softened, and she walked over to her mother, giving her a quick hug. "Whatever you decide, I trust you. You always know what's best for us." Her words, simple but filled with sincerity, gave Sarah a sense of calm she hadn't realized she needed. Ellie was right. This wasn't just about the house or the money. It was about giving Ellie the life she deserved, a life where she wouldn't have to worry about survival every single day. That afternoon, Sarah drove to Marcus's estate. The drive was quieter than usual, filled with the weight of the decision she had to make. As they arrived, the same sleek black car that had picked them up the day before greeted them at the entrance. Sarah felt her heart race as they stepped out. This wasn't just another visit. It was the final step in a life-altering decision. Marcus was waiting for them at the door, smiling warmly as always. "I'm so glad you both could make it," he said, his tone welcoming and relaxed. "I know this is a lot to take in, but I want you to feel no pressure. I simply want to help." "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice steady, though she could feel the weight of everything pressing down on her. It's a lot to process." Marcus nodded. "I understand. Take all the time you need." He led them inside, and the house felt even grander than before. But this time, Sarah could see it with new eyes. She could see the comfort and the security it could offer, not just to her, but to Ellie as well. They sat down in the same sitting room as before, the warmth of the fire crackling in the background. Ellie seemed more relaxed this time, no longer overwhelmed by the grandeur of it all. She was just happy to be here, happy to have this opportunity. Marcus leaned forward slightly. "Sarah, I know you're not someone who takes things lightly. I admire that. I'm offering you this because I believe you deserve it. Not just because of what Ellie did for me, but because you've raised a daughter who embodies the values we should all aspire to. Kindness, compassion, generosity. These aren't just things that happen by chance." Sarah looked down at her hands, the folder still lying untouched on the table. She wanted to reject it, to walk away. But something inside her told her this wasn't the time for pride. This was about Ellie. This was about giving her daughter the future she deserved. A future that wasn't limited by the struggles Sarah had faced. "I've been thinking a lot," Sarah said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "And I know that this isn't just about me. It's about Ellie too. And I don't want to let pride get in the way of giving her a better life." Marcus's expression softened. "You're making the right choice." "I hope so," Sarah said quietly. After a long pause, Sarah finally opened the folder, her fingers trembling slightly as she looked over the documents. There it was, the opportunity she had never imagined would come her way. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to believe that this could be their new beginning. It had been weeks since Sarah and Ellie moved into the new house. The change was nothing short of overwhelming. The house, which once felt like something out of a dream, had become their new home. It was spacious, light-filled, and full of possibilities. The worries that had plagued Sarah for years, the constant fear of eviction, the dread of a leaking roof or an empty refrigerator. All of that seemed distant now. For Ellie, the house felt like a whole new world. She had her own room now, a place where she could leave her soccer ball out and where she could keep her books and toys neatly arranged. Her friends from school came over regularly, and Sarah could see her confidence growing. Ellie had always been kind, but now she was starting to dream bigger. She spoke of the future with excitement, her dreams of becoming a scientist or an explorer, unencumbered by the constant worries that once limited her. Sarah, too, was starting to chase her own dreams again. She enrolled in online courses for nutrition, something she had always been passionate about, but had pushed aside for years due to the demands of life. She began sketching out ideas for a cafe, a place where food wasn't just served, but felt like home. The cafe was still just an idea in her head, but with each class she took, each recipe she experimented with, the dream started to feel more real. Though life was undeniably better, there was still a quiet sense of disbelief that lingered in Sarah's heart. She knew they didn't deserve this kindness, at least not in the way society might define it. But Marcus's belief in them had opened doors that Sarah never thought would be possible. She could feel the weight of his gift, but she also knew that it wasn't just about money. It was about something deeper, the power of compassion and the belief that people are worth more than the sum of their circumstances. One afternoon, as Sarah was in the kitchen experimenting with a new recipe for a vegetable stew, Ellie came running in with a flyer. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Mom, look at this! There's a summer camp for kids who want to be astronauts. They're even taking kids from the neighborhood." Sarah paused, wiping her hands on her apron. "Astronauts, huh?" she said with a smile, trying to suppress a laugh. Ellie nodded eagerly. "Yeah, I want to go. It sounds amazing." Sarah looked at her daughter, her heart swelling. She had never allowed herself to think of the possibilities for Ellie. Not the big ones, the ones that required money or connections or a world that didn't judge based on where you came from. But now Ellie had the chance to dream big without limitations, and Sarah was going to make sure she had the opportunity to chase those dreams. The next week, Sarah filled out the application forms for Ellie's camp. There was no hesitation this time. They didn't need to worry about the cost. That part had been taken care of. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she could breathe. She could give Ellie the life she had always wanted for her. A few months later, Ellie came back from camp, her mind buzzing with questions about space travel, rocket science, and the mysteries of the universe. Sarah could see the change in her, the spark of curiosity and wonder that would carry her far in life. That evening, as Sarah and Ellie sat down for dinner, the doorbell rang. Sarah opened the door to find a small envelope waiting for her. She opened it carefully, expecting nothing more than a letter, but inside was a note written in elegant script. "Kindness always finds its way back. Stay true to yourself. Marcus Winters." Beneath the note was another document, a scholarship for Ellie, full tuition for any school of her choice, no strings attached, her future, set in motion by a single act of kindness years ago. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she looked at Ellie, who was already grinning. "It's just like you said, Mom," Ellie said. "One good thing leads to another." Sarah pulled her daughter into a hug, feeling a deep sense of peace settle over her. She had never thought her life could change so dramatically, but here they were, in a new house, with new opportunities, and a future full of promise. This story teaches us the immense power of kindness and compassion. One simple act, like Ellie's selfless help in the park, can ripple out and change lives in ways we can't even imagine. Marcus Winters, a man of wealth and influence, was transformed not by his money, but by the kindness of a young girl who had nothing to gain. It also shows that kindness is not just about giving, it's about believing in others and offering opportunities when they're most needed. Sometimes all it takes to change someone's life is the belief that they deserve more, that they are worthy of a future where they don't have to struggle. Lastly, it teaches that when we give, we create a legacy, one that spreads through acts of generosity, transforming not just the recipients, but also the givers. Marcus gave Ellie and Sarah more than just material gifts. He gave them the belief that they could dream bigger and achieve things they once thought were impossible. In the end, kindness doesn't just change the world, it changes people, one life at a time.